Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Can everyone hear me and see me okay? If you can just let me know in the chat box, just so that I know everyone can hear me okay. Right, so welcome back if you've been to my other workshops. My name is Mimi. Welcome if this is your first time. It's really nice to see you with us today. Just going to make sure everything is working. Great. Everyone can see me, good. So just a couple of things, anything to do with recruitment or your trial jobs in terms of timing and things like that, please refrain from answering those questions, as today we will just be speaking about photography, specifically externals, but I'll be happy to answer other photography related questions. So yeah, photography workshop today, and any of your sort of recruitment questions will please send to recruitment@focalagent.com and somebody will get back to you. Right, the other thing to say is we have quite a lot of people on today, so if I've answered your question that was asked by somebody else, please just delete that question if you can. That way I can sort of get through, I can see the other questions easier and can get through them as quickly as possible. So welcome again. Today's session will be running until 10:30. And we will be speaking about externals and sort of answering your other sort of questions. So I'm going to do a very quick presentation on externals, and then I'll open it up for a Q&A. You can either write your questions while I'm speaking, I'll just read them later, or you can feel free to write the questions in the chat box once I'm done. So hopefully everyone can see this presentation. Right, so sorry, technical issues, give me 1 second. Okay, so today we're going to be speaking about externals, what makes a good external, things to do, things not to do, that sort of thing. So just a quick introduction. We always, for a few points that should be remembered for taking externals. Feel free to write this down if you need to. So the first one is step back to get a full view of the property. Usually this is a given, but we get a lot of sort of escalations come through from the clients of not getting a full view of the property. So do make sure that you step back to get an entire view of the property. Sometimes people will avoid this because of bins or cars, etc. If this is the case and you can't do anything about the cars and the bins, then please do take the photo anyway, because we do need a full view of the property. So the next point to remember is to take, just a general rule, to take 3 images of the front external. So the first one, we always need a shot straight on, so just straight on. Even if you don't think it's necessarily the best shot, it's always worth taking that one straight on. And then an angle from each side, so one from the left and one from the right. That's a general rule when you go to a property. Just always make sure that you walk away with 3 shots of the front external. The next thing to remember is to get an even amount of sky to pavement ratio. So you want to see the sky, and you also want to see the ground or pavement, whatever is in front. Yeah, because many times we'll get too much sky or we'll get too much pavement. So just make sure that you have an equal amount. So the next point is to centralize the property. So what that means is just ensuring that the property is in the center of the frame, basically. This will obviously depend on sort of what's in front of you, you know, maybe some obstacles that you have in the way, but again, you know, always work with what you have, take from different angles, and even at the different angles, just make sure that the property is in the center of the frame. The next big thing to always remember, another thing that we often get escalations on, is to include the driveway. So a lot of properties will obviously have a driveway. It is a huge selling point to sell the property. So please make sure that you include that driveway and you make it look as nice as you can to sort of showcase the fact that it does have a driveway. Okay, and the last thing to remember is not to crop the roof. We get a lot of this, especially when people are trying to get too close to the property and not getting a full view, because you're trying to work with sort of different obstacles and hedges and bins and cars and things in the way. It's super easy to crop the roof. Again, it's another escalation that comes through a lot, is that the roof is cropped off. So please make sure that you are including the roof. And you can, you know, find ways of stepping back, you know, to one side. There will be angles that you can get a full view of the property, I promise. Okay, so just to show you an example here, this is an example of the property with the roof cut off. So obviously we can see the door and, you know, basically, this is a very, very common sort of photo that we would receive. So yeah, so I would suggest to stand back and get the full view. So something like this is much better. So you can see there's equal amounts of sky to ground or pavement. You can also see sort of that space on the right there, sorry, on the left, with the bench and everything, which really also is part of the property, so really helps as well. Okay, so this is another common one that we would receive a lot. So this is way too much pavement and not enough sky. So just make sure that you have an equal, that you really see the sky in the image. For those of you who don't know, our post-production team replace the skies in every single exterior image. So do make sure that you get that sky in, because it will look really nice in post-production. So this is a much better view. You can see, let's go back to the other one here. You can see it slightly to the side, and the reason for that is because we didn't have enough room. You can see the fence there, so we did as best as we could sort of with that fence in the way. So again, this is one of the reasons it looks a bit off. It's kind of to the side. It's, you know, it's not the greatest, really. So this is again why we suggest taking the photo from the side. We can get a really nice angle here. The front door looks centralized, nice and beautiful, and then equal amounts of sky to pavement. So this is now something that some of you will experience based on what area you're in, but another thing that we often get is flats, you know, apartment buildings, and sort of the struggle to to get the externals for those. So I do understand it is a struggle. So I just wanted to sort of touch on that as well, and what we expect and what the client likes to see. So this is an example of an external that is too close for apartment buildings. So I'll give you a much better example. So again, this goes down to our #1 rule that I had mentioned in the intro, which is get a view of the full building. Even with large buildings, it is possible. As you can see here, you just need to step back. And again here, a nice amount of sky, which will be edited in, and then equal amounts of pavement. You can see it's a bit of a difficult one as well, because it's on a slanted hill. However, the verticals are straight, which is what we spoke about last time if you were here, but the verticals are straight. So just remember that's the most important thing. Unfortunately, we can't change the structure of the hill, so. So So just to recap, number one, step back, get a view of the full property. Even if hedges, fences, whatever are in the way, it's always ideal to get a view of the full property. Point number two, take 3 images, 2 from each side and 1 straight on. If you just remember every single property you go to whenever you walk away, just ask yourself, do I have 3 images of the front external? Next point is to have an equal amounts of sky to pavement. Just look at the image once you've taken it and just make sure that you don't have too much sky or too much pavement. And then the next point, which kind of goes along with the sky to pavement ratio, is to centralize the property. So make sure that it's in the center of the image. And then another point as well is to include the driveway. Again, it's a big selling point. Also, it really does make the property look nicer, so please do not crop the driveway off. Please make sure that you include the driveway to show that there is one. And then another big one that we get all the time due to basically being too close and trying to avoid obstacles is the roof being chopped off. So make sure that you're not cropping off the roof in your image and you're stepping back to get the full view. Okay, cool. I will open it up to a Q&A now. Hello again. Right, everybody. Hopefully that all made sense. Right, I will start to answer your questions. So if you have them, please write them in the chat box. So will there be online workshops for 360? Yes, there will be. Give me 1 second. It is on Wednesday, the 21st of October at 10 a.m. So we will be sending you the link to that. Okay, can you recommend a laser measure that I can use? Any laser measure. Okay. I'd like to access the previous workshops. How can I access this? I will make an announcement at the end of this and I will include the YouTube link for you. So just once I finish this session, I'll include the link for you. We post all of our content. We're getting through quite a few workshops now, so we're slowly posting our content and the Q&As up on YouTube. Okay. Should you photograph the back of the property, including the garden, especially if it's a nice looking garden? Yes. So externals mean all externals. So front of the property, balconies and gardens. Again, it's part of the property. You're helping to sell the property and it's a huge asset. So yes, definitely gardens every single time. How can we get an even sky to pavement ratio without tilting the camera up and thus affecting the verticals? So the way to do that is generally by stepping back. If the garden has a large hedge and we can't get far enough back, can we point upwards and ignore the verticals being straight? So I would like to see some examples of that because one of the reasons why we're using a wide angle lens is to, get a full view. And if the garden has a large hedge, then you should still be able to stand in the furthest corner and get a nice view of the garden. I generally replace my sky in my images before submitting. Would you rather we left that to the post-production team and just submit raw images? So a couple things. You can edit if you like to, but we request that you do not edit. it's just basically for time constraint reasons. We don't want you to waste your time. We have an entire post-production team. Any sky that you replace will be re-replaced anyways because that's their job. So they're going to replace skies. So please do not waste your time and replace skies yourself. In terms of raw images, we only accept JPEGs. So if you mean unedited, then yes, send the unedited images in JPEGs only, please. How do you feel about using a polar filter to control the reflections of the sky? I don't. Using a lens hood should do the job most of the time. If you are getting really bad reflections, you can, another trick that we suggest is to place your fingers or your hands at the corner where the sun is coming through, because the sky will be replaced in post-production. So if your hand is on the sky, then you don't need to worry about that. If the property is a flat with a balcony, would you take a close-up of the balcony from outside? So I don't know what you mean by close-up, but every single image that we take should be at 16 millimeter focal length for full-frame cameras and 10 millimeter focal length for crop frame cameras. So no close-ups or lifestyle images. What we would need from the balcony is sort of the, that would act as an external shot. So it'd be the view from the balcony and then of the balcony. So trying to, again, as a general rule for all rooms, 2 to 3 angles. So exactly the same applies to a balcony. Hopefully I just answered this question, Neil. Are we required to use the same focal length for externals? Yes, all 16 millimeters for full frame and 10 millimeters for crop frame. Do you mean 1 from each side and 1 straight on? Because 2 from each side plus 1 straight on would be 5. Yes, I don't, sorry if I misspoke. If I did say 2 from each side, I meant 1 from each side. So yeah. Okay. Should we use flash for exteriors? Oh, really good question. No. The answer is no. Flash should be only for interiors, please. Do you still take an image from one of the sides if you can see it doesn't work? It's on a hill and you're mainly getting just a hedge. When you can see from the other side, the image works really well. So really good question. Again, I would suggest taking that image anyway. If you can't see the property, then no, there's no point in submitting it. But it's worth trying, even if there is sort of a hedge in the way, it's still worth trying that angle anyways. So yeah, I would say submit a minimum of 2 to 3 images of the front external, only in absolute dire cases where you feel that a third image cannot work at all. I would not submit it, but if it's okay to use, I would submit it anyways, just to sort of show the agent that you did take it from that angle as well. Do we shoot RAW or JPEG? Hopefully I answered that question earlier, but the portal only accepts JPEG, and our post-production team only edits in JPEG. So we actually recommend, you can shoot whatever you like, but if you are shooting in RAW, then it's just going to be more work for you because you're going to need to convert it to JPEG. So we actually just recommend shooting in JPEG. Hi, for flat exterior, would you ever put the camera into portrait to get more in? No, so we only accept landscape. How many do we take of the back garden? So really good question. Again, this applies to the same with any other room in the property, 2 to 3 angles. So a garden especially will probably be better with 3. So 3 angles of the garden from sort of each corner. Are all photos required ISO 400? So the max we go is 400. We recommend to just fix your ISO at 400 unless it's a particularly really bright or sunny day, or you're having some issues with light, then yeah, definitely you can lower that, but the max we say is 400. Do you crop out the attached properties? No, so this is a really good question. So obviously if you are photographing a property that isn't attached, yes, we would say, try to single that out. However, if a property is attached to another one, it's nearly impossible to not get that property and make the main property look nice, because it's going to be sort of completely to one side. So what we would suggest is don't worry about getting that second property in. It's fine if it's in, as long as your main property is the focus. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. What if it's bad weather? If it's bad weather, then it's still fine to take photos, so we recommend still going ahead. Okay. How to avoid traffic, especially apartment blocks across the street. So if you cannot avoid traffic, especially on a really busy street, then we just say do the absolute best that you can, basically. There's nothing you can do about that. So please, can you recommend a lens? So yes, depending on your camera, if it's cropped frame, then 10 millimeters. If it's full frame, then 16 millimeters. How would I get 3 images of an apartment block if going further down the road is my only option? So you can still try straight on if you have the option of stepping back, and then just one from the right and one from the left. Okay, again, questions about focal length. Yes, it's the same as any other image, fixed focal length all the way through, including externals. If the property includes access to a parking garage, would you take photos of this? Really great question. So with this in particular, I would say yes, it's part of the property. So it's part of the parking. However, it's always best to just double check with the agent or the vendor if they would like a photo of this, or if you have access. Okay. If there's heavy rain or snow, do you have to reschedule with the client? So I'm seeing quite a few more questions on sort of the weather here. No, so rain will not show in the image. It will just look a bit wet. The skies are still replaced, so it will still look really nice. And in terms of snow, unfortunately, that's the snow will be in the image and can look quite nice sometimes. So no, it should not be rearranged. You can also ensure to the client that the skies are edited and it will look really nice. So some people do get, vendors sometimes do want to rearrange, but I would say try to avoid that. Okay, so just a question on verticals here. In my tests, there have been some slightly off. that I wasn't seeing wrong on the camera and line guides, but once on the PC, I could see it. Can I correct these in Lightroom? Is that acceptable, or do retouchers do this? So I would need to see sort of more examples, but what I would say is always, I don't know if you watch the Verticals workshop, but again, I'll post the YouTube link. And once I post the YouTube link, then you will be able to see our session on verticals if you haven't seen that already. But there are certain things to look out for so that you will not need to do this in Lightroom. The best way, what is the best way to take a photo of a terrace property? Obviously straight on would be in the center, but from either side, it could be difficult to make it clear which property it is. Yeah, so most likely the agent in those cases will probably use the one that is straight on. However, if you do take them from angles and you again are centralizing the property, then that will be the main focus in the image. So that should make it clear which one it is. What are the requirements for garden externals? So exactly the same as any room, 2 to 3 angles, as from as many corners as you can. What happens if you have heavy shadows due to excess contrast on a sunny day? How do we deal with this situation? Unfortunately, we can't. So sun coming through the window that's very, very heavy, causing shadows, is absolutely fine and can actually look quite nice and welcoming. So we want the property, even if it's a dark, small property, we want it to look light and spacious. So I wouldn't worry about the shadows at all. Are 3 images of the front a must, as sometimes there are large hedge bordering the properties? Yes, so they are a must. I know that there's going to be obstacles in the way. That's why we say to take 3, and that's why we say from each angle. Sometimes the agent will actually be fine with using the one with a hedge. So yeah, so please do still take that straight on image. Should we correct our images for lens distortion? No. Please, we ask that you do not do any editing at all. You can if you want, we're not going to stop you, but we have a post-production team, so do not worry about that. Can we take a photo of the garden from one of the bedrooms for a different view? So, really good question. I don't know if you were in our workshop on verticals and composition, but every single photo needs to be taken at 4 feet and the camera needs to be completely straight and pointing forward. So we do not recommend any views out the window. Do you still have to follow the 16mm focal length rule on a full frame DSLR as you do for internal shots? Or can the focal length be varied? Yes, you need to follow that rule. It needs to be 16mm for a DSLR for internals and externals. Hopefully that I'm getting quite a few questions on this now. Hopefully that's answered that. Okay. Are we still required to draw the floor plans on every single shoot? Yes, there are some jobs that come through that do not require floor plan, but to be honest, those are quite rare. So yes, generally it is photos and floor plans and 360. If there are lots of parked cars in the street, that would be in the shot of the front of the building. Do we crop them out? So again, if you can avoid it, please do. However, you don't want to be cropping where the roof is cut off or where too much pavement is cut off or where you're not getting a full view of the property. So unfortunately, if there are cars parked and there's nothing you can do about it, then we still need the view of the front of the property. So this is a really good question. I'll answer this one as the last one. When shooting in a town, city, with the possibility of pedestrians, are we okay to include the pedestrians in the shot? So no, we request that no humans or animals are in any of your photos. However, if you are in a super busy city, where there's constantly people walking by and you've waited and waited and you cannot get one without somebody in it, then please do take that shot anyways. Our post-production team will blur any faces in the images, and that also includes for photos of people that are in the property. Okay, so I am going to post our YouTube link on the announcement, so please do have a look. We will be hosting these workshops once a week and posting our content online. So there you go. Hopefully everyone can see that. Thank you so much for joining today. Our next workshop is on Monday at 10 a.m. on floor plans. So I hope to see you then. Again, please, if you email me, unfortunately, I will not be able to reply. So regarding trial jobs, they will get back to you as soon as they can. Okay, great. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.